Okay, I'd like you to imagine that you are up in a high mountain meadow. It's summer. The sun is shining. The air is just so cool. There's a small stream running through the meadow. Maybe some small flowers growing there. And you are free. You are free to be up there. Just walk around a bit and just feel what it feels like. And then I'd like you to look around and see that you're being joined by someone. So let's just see who that is. And then once that person comes to you, I'd like you two to look around and decide on a mountain that you would like to climb. So make that decision. Get whatever climbing gear you're going to get together. And then I'd like you to begin your walk up or climb up the mountain. And I'd like you to be really aware of your hands, what they're doing, what your feet are doing, and you're going to go up a ways. And about a quarter of the way up the mountain, I want you to see that there is a place where you can climb up and stand. So I'd like you two to go up and stand there, and as you do, you'll see that there is a woman standing there, an old woman. And she has something to give you for your journey up the mountain. So see what that is and take it, and then thank her, and then begin your climb again. And just begin climbing and noticing again what it feels like to be making your way up this mountain. And we're going to keep going up until you're about 3/4 of the way up the mountain. And at that point, I'd like you to see that you can again stand on a ledge, and there is an old man standing there. And the old man has some advice for you about this climb up the mountain. So listen to what he has to say. And when you're ready, begin climbing. And this time you're going to make your way up to the top of the mountain. When you get to the top, I would like you to stand on the top and look out at the view. See what you see, feel what it feels like to be standing there on the top of the mountain. And then as you look around, you'll see that the sun is growing closer to the mountaintop. It's not hot, it's not going to do anything to you, but it just is moving closer to the top. It finally envelops the mountaintop. You leave your climbing partner behind, and you look and see that there is a door. I'd like you to imagine that you open the door and step into the sun. On the other side, you're met by a guide. So I'd like you to see who that guide is. And then the guide is going to turn and begin taking you down a mountainous path, easy walking mountainous path, to a valley, a very green valley, small houses about, children running about, animals, and you'll come to a place where you can see that there is a large building at the bottom. And this is an exquisite place that you're going to go in. So I'd like you to imagine that your guide takes you up the set of stairs, opens the door, and then steps in, and you step in behind him or her. And you walk down a long hallway. And he is or she is going to take you to this place to where there is a closed door. He or she is going to open the door, and you are going to see as you step inside this room that this is a room that has wise beings sitting at a table. They greet you by name. You come in and sit down at the other side of the table. Your guide steps out, shuts the door. And this is your opportunity to ask these wise beings anything that you would like about your life, and they will answer. So I'm going to give you a moment here. All right. So I'd like you now to imagine that it's time for you to leave. I'd like you to stand and imagine that they stand and come around and you are hugged by these people. Your guide returns, you leave the room, and now you're going to walk down this long hall. You're going to come to the door, you're going to step out, and now you're going to be back out into the sunshine. And the guide is going to take you up the mountain. You're going to keep going up until you reach the door of the sun. At this point, I want you to imagine that the guide has something to say to you. And perhaps you want to hug or shake hands or do something. You're rejoined by the person who climbed up with you. The sun resumes its original position in the sky. And now I'd like you to stand for a moment and just feel what it feels like to stand there. Okay, and now I'm going to have you imagine going down the mountain, back to the meadow, and when you reach the meadow, I'd like you again to stop and look up and run through your mind the things that have happened since you left the meadow. Okay, now I'd like you to come back into the room again, and I'm going to ask you a series of questions. So the first one is, what is it like to be free in the mountains? A lot of times we get so caught up in what we're doing that we don't go out into nature. Who joined you? Maybe there was a surprise. It may have been your dog, for that matter. But it's interesting who you feel at this moment, in this day, that you feel that you could share something like this with that individual. The kind of mountain that you chose, was it an easy climb? Was it a hard climb? We would say that this is what you, or how you're seeing what challenges you've set up for yourself in this life. The old woman usually gives people either food or she gives them something like a gem, but there isn't an absolute should to this. And she represents the nurturing part of yourself. So sometimes we don't see an old woman, sometimes she's an old crone, and this may be that we're not nurturing ourselves. Or if it's something wonderful, then if it's our grandmother who's passed on, it just depends. Up there, the next man, again, this has to do with your interior wisdom, the masculine wisdom about how do I get along in my life? How am I going to negotiate this? How connected are you? What kind of advice did he give you? Was it helpful? Or are you disconnected from that part of yourself? Okay, getting up to the top of the mountain. What's it feel like to really get up there? A lot of times we can't imagine ourselves actually arriving. So this is a wonderful meditation to stand up there and look out over everything and just feel what it's like. Now, I have the sun come, which of course, then some people don't want to go any further in this guided imagery because it's like, that's not real. I don't want that to happen. But let's assume that you let it happen. Well, now we're saying that you're now opening yourself up as you open the door into what I've been talking about as higher states of consciousness, to things that can happen like telepathic communication or precognitive things that can happen, connection in a dream with a grandfather that's passed on, things that are like that, that take us out of our normal way of operating. So the guide. Sometimes the guide is, again, someone who's passed on. Sometimes it's, if you're a Buddhist, it's Buddha. If you're a Christian, it's Christ. So we just have to see, who that is and what connection you have with that person in these higher states. Going on down and in, you meet up with wise beings. Right? And whomever you want to make them, but they're not the people that you usually are in touch with. And this is where a lot of people don't hear what they say, or they can't think of questions to ask. Because we're not asking or connecting with these, profounder places where there's so much joy and wisdom. It's available for our personal journey. So what I would suggest you do is do this again and get so that you can imagine, if you haven't been able to, what the woman gives you, what the man tells you, what the people, the wise beings tell you, what your connection is with this guide. And this is a very good first guided meditation for you to experience some of the reality of what we're trying to talk about in terms of meditation.